Now that Mox Opal's unbanned, how good is Lantern Control in 2024 actually? That's what we're going to find out today. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and Modern is back, and today we're gonna play one of my all-time favorite decks, one of the most infamous, one of the most miserable prison decks to ever exist in Magic. We're gonna do some Lantern controlling, and if you don't know Lantern Control, it is a beautiful deck. It still blows my mind that anyone figured out how to put these janky pieces of cards together into a functional pile. It is just such a super unique archetype, and it's a deck that basically got killed when Mox Opal got banned. Or maybe it was a printing of Beseju and a bunch of artifact hate, but that's what we're going to figure out today. So let's talk about Lantern Control, what this ridiculous deck is trying to do, jump into a Modern League, and figure out just how good Lantern Control is in 2024, actually. So Lantern Control isn't built around Chromatic Lantern, which would be a safe assumption. No, it's Lantern of Insight, this 1-mana artifact from way back in 5th Odd. This says each player plays with the top card of their library revealed, and then you can sacrifice it to make someone shuffle their library. So the goal of Lantern Control is really simple. Our goal is to make it so our opponent cannot possibly win the game. And the way that we do this is super unique. We're using Lantern Control so we can see what's on the top of our opponent's deck, and then we have all these weird janky mill rocks in Codex Shredder, in Ghoul Color Spell, in Pixis of Pandemonium, which each essentially mill a card from each player's library, or Pixis exiles a card. But essentially, we see what's on the top of our opponent's deck, and we think, okay, can this card hurt us? If that card can hurt us or break out of our lock, then we mill it, and then if that card can't hurt us, it's a useless land or whatever, we just leave it on the top of the deck. So it's essentially top of our opponent's deck control, where rather than trying to kill our opponent's creatures and counter our opponent's spells, we are trying to control what cards our opponent draws and make sure that they never draw a card that can actually hurt us. And the way we win the game isn't by actually really winning the game. If we do have to win the game, it's usually by milling our opponent out. But the way we normally win is making it so we can't possibly lose, and then our opponent gives up in frustration. So the core of the deck, Lantern of Insight, so we get to see the top card of our opponent's deck, and then we get to mill cards as we need to off the top of our opponent's deck. The other key piece is Ensnaring Bridge. So Ensnaring Bridge, our deck's really good at getting empty-handed. Our deck's super cheap. We got Mox Opal, so we can just dump our hands super duper quick. So the idea of Ensnaring Bridge, it essentially makes it so creatures can't attack, which we're fine with since we don't really care about attacking with creatures anyway. But the true value of this is we play Ensnaring Bridge, and this means now creatures are no longer really threats. So we can let our opponent draw their creatures, and we can focus our milling on things that can kill our Ensnaring Bridge, can kill our lock pieces, can combo off and kill us without creatures. So Ensnaring Bridge just locks down all the creatures forever and gives us way more flexibility with our milling options. And then the rest of the deck is essentially about cutting off additional outs. So we have Thoughtseize and Inquisition, because what if our opponent has something busted in their opening hand before we can get the lock set up? These cards let us do the hand check, get rid of something like that. Surgical Extraction, if we mill over something that's going to be a problem in the future, we can get rid of all the copies of it. Grafdigger's Cage, because we're milling so much, if we run into Arclight Phoenix or Dredge, kind of awkward that it might be helping our opponent, but Grafdigger's Cage just shuts off the graveyard. Pithing Needle takes care of a few different things. The biggest one is this can name Beseju Who Endures, which is one of the best ways to break out of our lock. And you'll see in the games, the thing about Lantern Control is we really need 100% batting average. It's not one of those decks where we control you, but once in a while something slips through, but that's okay. We really need to make sure that you never ever draw anything relevant, because if you draw a single card that can blow up our bridge from below or blow up all of our artifacts, the whole thing is going to fall apart. So Pithing Needle cuts out that Beseju out, it shuts down Planeswalkers, and then Assassin's Trophy, just kind of a catch-all for anything that does happen to slip through the cracks early in the game. And then we have couple other cards. Ancient Stories just digs to our deck to find our pieces. Mox Opal, our big returning piece, just speeds up the deck really, really fast. So because we need to get empty-handed, to turn on Ensnaring Bridge, we want to dump our hand really quickly. Mox Opal helps with that. It fixes our colors and lets us pay like 4 colors of stuff when you count our sideboard, and it just ramps us into our payoffs really, really quickly. So that's Mox Opal, that's Ancient Stories. As far as the mana base, few lands here that are notable. The biggest one, Urza Saga, absolutely absurd in this deck. And the funny thing about Urza Saga in the deck, we don't really care about the constructs most times because usually we're gonna have an ensnaring bridge and the constructs can't really attack anyway. But just being able to tutor up a 0/1 mana artifact means it gets our Lantern, it gets our Mox Opal, it gets our Graveyard Hate, it gets our Mill Rocks. So it's just an absurd tutor. And then it's also our backup plan. Like if things go wrong and we get hit by a meltdown or something, maybe we can make a couple constructs and beat you down. Academy Ruins make sure that we never mill out. We just keep putting things back on the top of our deck, gets back our important pieces that are blown up. Mycosynth Gardens can turn into any of our lock pieces. Fomori's Vault digs through the deck, and then mostly mana fixing stuff. As far as the sideboard, it's still kind of the same story of trying to strengthen the lock. So Welding Jar protects against artifact destruction. Gaddock Teeg shuts down Meltdown, which is like the biggest spell for the deck. Spellskite can eat a removal spell instead of our Ensnaring Bridge or our Lantern of Insight. Necromentia for certain combo pieces. Gurp Aethergate gives us some damage from our artifacts. Haywire might Fatal Push give us a little bit of removal. Damping Sphere for Storm. Torpor Orb shuts down ETB triggers on creatures that could blow up our artifacts. Curse Totem shuts down the twin combo. Soul Guide Lantern for more Graveyard Hate. And that is Lantern Control. That's our deck for today. So let's jump into a Modern League and see just how miserable we can make our opponents by making sure they never get to draw a relevant card. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back in a bit for the wrap up. Need some magic cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. Want to help out the channel? Well, you can snag these super sweet new dice, playmats, tokens, and more over at mtggoldfishmerch.com. It is Modern time, and we're gonna find out if one of my all-time favorite Modern decks and one of the all-time most unique and most miserable Modern decks, Lantern Control, is back. Thanks to Mox Opal. In this hand, we got a Mox Opal, but that's way too. We're like an 18 land deck, and that's way too many lands for what we're trying to do. This is more reasonable. Not a great hand. No Lantern, no mill stuff. We gotta, I think we just go to 5. All right, well, this will try. But mana is so awkward. Assassin's Trophy bottom, Surgical bottom. We're really leaning on these redraws from Mishra's Bauble. Ooh, Darksteel Citadel, okay. Probably some sort of affinity deck. So the idea of Lantern Control is to essentially make it so your opponent, set up a machine, essentially, that makes it so your opponent never draws a relevant card again. Ooh, okay, this actually hilariously kind of works. So we get Mishra's Bauble. Is it gonna let us get the Thoughtseize down, which is nice? Mishra's Bauble, Mox Opal, and Thoughtseize you. Simulacrum Synthesizer, Ornithopter, Urza's Saga, Metallic Rebuke, Memnite. I'm not super convinced this deck can beat Ensnaring Bridge. Take the Metallic Rebuke, play the Besage, crack a Bauble, Thoughtcast on top. Let's pass and see what we draw. I don't know if we want to crack this other Bauble or not. We need another artifact for... Okay, Kodak Shredder. So that does turn on the Opal. Opponent finds the Urza Saga. Passing. Well, yeah, let's crack the Bauble. See what our opponent has on top for next turn. Mox Opal. Probably need to mill that. So we get to draw another card. Lantern. And land? Assassin's Trophy. Oh, well, I really want the Lantern, but we got to play the Kodak Shredder first because really don't want our opponent to get that Mox Opal here. Pass the turn. I feel like there's a reasonable chance. We found the Lantern, which is huge for the future. I feel like there's a reasonable chance that if we can stick this Ensnaring Bridge, our opponent's not going to be able to beat it. Ornithopter, I guess, can be an issue. Ooh, they found the mana. All right, so opponent's going to get to Thoughtcast, draw a couple cards. Yeah, Springleaf Drum, huge for our opponent. Huge, huge, huge. Well, now we get to start doing the thing that our deck wants to do. This Urza Saga is kind of annoying. Treasure Vault, opponent. Forest. Okay, more green mana. Well, let's play the Lantern of Insight. Slink into Stupor on the top of our opponent's deck, but they can't currently cast it, although that does beat a bridge. I think we actually mill it. Frogmere Enforcer, right? Play the land. You know what? This is kind of wild, but I think we just blow up this Urza Saga before it gets to tutor. Because they can get a Pithing Needle to shut down our Kodak Shredder, most likely. Opponent gets an island. All right, they're drawing a Springleaf Drum. That's fine. Unfortunately, we don't know our opponent's full hand. So our plan at the moment is hide behind this Ensnaring Bridge and hopefully build up more mana rocks to control the top of our opponent's deck. There's a Simulacrum Synthesizer. So the question's going to be, did our opponent draw another Metallic Rebuke? If they did and can counter the bridge, we might be in trouble. If our opponent did not, and we resolve the bridge, then I think we're in pretty good shape. Springleaf Drum, one card in hand. Thought Monitor to draw what? Frogmere Enforcer. We should be able to see both cards, right? Frogmere and Mox Opal? I think we're okay. Frogmere Enforcer. I mean, opponent's making a huge board. That is for sure. But we got the bridge. Opponent's out of cards. Oh, it's double Frogmere Enforcer. I mean, that is a big board. But can you beat an Ensnaring Bridge? The real question. So we're going to draw Mox Opal. We're not going to mill it. We're not going to mill it because we might mill the Thought Monitor. We'll see. Inquisition on top. So 1, 2, 3. Play the Ensnaring Bridge. Second Mox Opal. Keep the new one. I think we mill the Thought Monitor. Yeah, I think we mill it because it gives them a free draw. Ugh, Urza Saga. Urza Saga's not ideal, but it doesn't straight up beat us. So I guess it's gonna go. We would like to mill this Inquisition. We want to mill this Inquisition, but we got to mill the Slink into Stupor, so... All right, there's the Urza Saga. Yeah, we can't let them Slink into Stupor. That makes us die. So I guess we're drawing this Inquisition and casting it for no value. Ugh. All right, we need more mill rocks. We get an Urza Saga on top. Mill the Slink. We can't let that resolve. Sojourner's Companion, that's fine. I guess we don't need to cast this. Well, do we? Yeah, we don't really need to cast the Inquisition. All right, we'll pass. They hit us for 1 with the Memnite. That's fine. Kappa Cannoneer, that's also fine. We'll let our opponent draw big things all day. I'm mostly worried about this Urza Saga finding a Pithing Needle. Oh, another Kodak Shredder. That Pithing Needle is going to be brutal. Well, play our Urza Saga, which is going to be good eventually. Yeah, we'll cast the Inquisition, get it out of our hand. The Sojourner's Companion also lets our opponent change the top card of their deck. We have gotten through 2 Slink into Stupors. That might be our opponent's only answers, though. Ugh, Thoughtcast is annoying. It might be that even the Pithing Needle's a problem. Yeah, I think we actually have to mill this in response. We want to mill the card draw, because that lets our opponent draw a card that we can't control. Oh, no. Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no. Oh, wait. They search our library. Okay. The Cranial Plating would beat us. Because they can equip it to an Ornithopter at instant speed. That is another card we cannot let resolve. But this Tutoring's going to shuffle it. I imagine it's Pithing Needle for Kodak Shredder, and that is going to make things hard for the time being. Well, we're going to have to be aware that there's a Cranial Plating in the deck that our opponent... Like, this is a shuffle with... so you can use Lantern to shuffle someone's library. Oh, they get a Mox Opal. Interesting. They must not have Pithing Needle in their main deck. Well, that's good news. That means that we're going to have 2 Kodak Shredders, and 2 Kodak Shredders might be enough here. So Urza Saga gonna tick up. Ooh, Surgical. Well, let's play the Kodak Shredder. And this is where we want to be. It looks so janky and weird if you've never seen Lantern before. But this weird setup of random uncommon and common mana rocks, or like mill rocks, is actually our win con. This is actually our win con, and actually what our opponent cannot theoretically be. So opponent, okay, they're going to cycle the Sojourner's Companion and change the top card of their deck. We will see what's on top. It's an Ornithopter. Sure, you can have an Ornithopter. And an Island. Okay, the question is, do we want the Surgical? Yeah, here comes Kappa Cannoneer. Still can't attack, though. Yeah. And then the Urza Saga is going to get another mill rock. I guess the Surgical's kind of fine. We might as well make a construct. Yeah, let's mill the Surgical. Another Lantern. Okay, that's very good. We're not even going to bother to make more constructs. We're not going to win with constructs here. There's a Pithing Needle. So float a mana. And this one might be locked up. We'll grab the Pixis of Pandemonium. Play another Lantern of Insight. And we will pass the turn. And now, since we have 4 mills each turn, I think our opponent essentially has no way of winning this game. Now we're going to start aggressively mill an opponent. They realize we have locked him out. And that's the plan. It looks so weird that this setup of Kodak Shredders and Pixises and Lantern of Insights would actually be unbeatable. But the idea is we just make sure every turn our opponent's drawing something that doesn't matter. If there's something that matters, we mill it. If it's something that doesn't matter, we leave it. And doing this, eventually we just mill our opponent's entire deck. Like it's kind of as simple as that. So that is the game plan. Huh, what do we got to worry about? Hurkyl's Recall? Hurkyl's Recall is kind of brutal. That even gets around welding jars and such. But the question for Lantern in 2024 is the reason Lantern fell off that Mox Opal was banned and it slowed the deck down? Or is the issue with Lantern control all the Besejus and effects like that can break out of the lock that didn't exist a few years ago? Gonna be interesting to see if Opal is a game changer. Curse Totem. Haywire Might's obviously fine. I guess maybe there was an argument for keeping the Surgical just to just to look at our opponent's deck. So we gotta be aware of Hurkyl's Recall. That can get rid of the bridge. And it's really a deck that just rewards you for knowing what could be, should be in your opponent's deck. I guess this would stop Simulacrum Synthesizer, but I don't know if we care about stopping Simulacrum Synthesizer. What are we gonna cut is the other question. I kind of want the Necromentia. One Thoughtseize, one Surgical. Really worried about Hurkyl's Recall. Our deck's pretty good at protecting from like a meltdown. Less good at protecting from mass bounce though. So that's the worry. But game one, that is kind of classic Lantern. Classic Lantern luck. I love this deck so much. This is one of the decks in all of Magic that it blows my mind that someone figured it out. That's one of the things I love about this deck is it's so different and so weird that it blows my mind that someone actually figured out a way to make this into like a functional archetype that like kind of works. And it's just so neat. And it's so miserable to play against, but I find it super fun to play. It's like trying to put together this puzzle essentially that if you do assemble the puzzle correctly, your opponent doesn't get to do anything. So, and that's one of my favorite things to do in Magic is make your opponent not do anything. And assembling this weird contraption of jank that just leads to your opponent drawing a useless land every turn is just, oh, it's so satisfying. I absolutely love it. Opponent, do we scare them away? Are they just done? One game against Lantern and we're done with Magic? I can see that. Lantern is very miserable to play against. So no Lantern. We have a Pixis and Necromentia. No Lantern's awkward, but Thoughtseize, Haywire Might, Pixis are fine. Necromentia could be good. And then Fomori, yeah, I think we try this. I think we trust that this Fomori Vault is eventually going to dig us into our Lantern. We don't necessarily have to have Lantern in our opening hand. I think the Haywire Might's good enough, especially the possibility of like sniping a land and just really getting them. I think that's good enough. And then the Necromentia is eventually going to cover that Slink into Stupor. And that's how you want to be thinking about that. If you decide to play Lantern, you want to be thinking, okay, what possible out does my opponent have that I need to be cutting off with one of my cards? Like, what is a card in our opponent's deck that can get through an Ensnaring Bridge and let them win through the lock that I need to name with Necromentia? So that's kind of the logic of this deck, right? Like, you need to know what you're scared of in your opponent's deck, not because it's a card that's good in their deck, but it's a card that can interact with what we're trying to do. And those are the cards we need to make sure our opponent never gets to draw. We got to make sure they never get to draw the cards that can interact with what we're trying to set up. They can, like we saw last game, they can make big constructs all day long. Like, go to town, play your Kappa Cannoneers, play that stuff perfectly fine. Do that all day. Just don't draw a Slink into Stupor, please. Or a Meltdown or something. I do think Affinity is going to be a good deck. We played Affinity with Leyline Axe on stream, and we went 4-1 with it. Missed the 5-0, but it felt really good. And Leyline Axe was actually kind of hilarious. Being able to just Ember Cleave up a Memnite and go to town. Much better with like a Karnstruct or something, or Kappa Cannoneer. Like, you can build some pretty good threats with a Leyline Axe. Plus, it's a free artifact on the battlefield, which is kind of exactly what you want. Oh, opponent. Wow, gonna lead on the Slink into Stupor. Untapped. And Mox Opal. And Springleaf Drum. Well, let's see what we find. Urza Saga is so good in this deck, too. That's one of the big upgrades since from when this deck was a thing like forever ago, before the banning. Urza Saga, the big constructs are kind of funny because we end up locking ourselves a lot of times with Ensnaring Bridge, but still a lot of times insane just as a way to tutor up Lantern or whatever. Well, I think we just Blooming Marsh and Thoughtseize you. The question is always, do you randomly activate your Pixises and so forth in the blind? The problem is we could be exiling our Lantern of Insights, which is not ideal. Force Negation, Metallic Rebuke, Thoughtcast. If they draw a 0-mana artifact, they play it, 1, 2, 3, then they can Thoughtcast. Let's take the Thoughtcast. Try to play through the counter spells, pass the turn. Our opponent might feel like they have to counter this Haywire Might. Another Springleaf Drum. Turns on the Mox Opal. Ooh, Inquisition is actually a great draw. Inquisition you. Opponent, gonna spend the Metallic Rebuke. Can't pay, that's fine. And then I think we just play the Spire of Industry, get down the Pixis of Pandemonium. I don't think we're just going to blind activate. So we know our opponent's last card is Force of Negation. Yeah, let's wait. We're not going to blind activate it. We need a Lantern. So we can't just Haywire Might away the Mox Opal? So it seems like our opponent's sideboard plan is a bunch of counter spells. Opponent's also kind of playing slow. This is like, Lantern can play some really long matches, and you got to be aware of the clock, because it is not unrealistic that a match could go to time. Fomori Vault's going to be sweet once we get to it. Maybe could have sideboarded out a Pithing Needle. Not having mana abilities means it can't shut down an Opal, can't shut down the Springleaf Drums. Mycosynth Gardens. Well, okay. I think we play Fomori Vault, Haywire Might. Do we snipe the Mox Opal? I almost think the answer is yes, just because I think next turn, are they countering it? You can't force a negation. You draw another Metallic Rebuke. All right, opponent drew another Metallic Rebuke. I think we're going to be spending our turns activating this Fomori Vault at some point. Ooh, Ornithopter. All right, that gives them more mana, which is kind of relevant. Opponent's Bazin. We draw Ancient Stirrings. We could just Necromentia the counter. Yeah, let's Ancient Stirrings. See if that gets the counter. Probably not, because they probably assume they can just counter whatever we get off of it, which is sort of true here. All right, there's the Lantern of Insight. So take the Lantern. Play the Mycosynth Gardens. Yeah, I guess we just pass. So Springleaf Drum, it is a mana ability. Basically, if it makes mana, it's a mana ability. So I think what we're gonna have to do here, pass the turn. If we play Lantern, it's gonna get countered. Thoughtcast, that's a good one. I think we're going to have to Necromentia to get rid of the Force, and then resolve the Lantern and go from there. Inkmoth's a little scared. Another Pithing Needle. Well, Necromentia. We're also going to need to find an Ensnaring Bridge. But once we get on the ladder and can see the top of our deck, then we can use the Pixis to dig for the bridge before we die. We are giving our opponent a zombie here if this resolves. Actually, if they counter this, I'm kind of fine with it. Wow. Okay, opponent does counter. Well, I mean, now we get to play our Lantern. Opponent's top card's a Mox Opal. We have an Urza Saga. Okay, we will pass the turn. Memnite on top. We can also Pithing Needle this Inkmoth, which is nice. All right, well, we'll draw the Urza Saga. Play the Urza Saga. And then I think we just Pithing Needle the Inkmoth. Pithing Needle is actually very important to this deck. Like, just being able to shop these random things that otherwise we couldn't deal with, actually super, super relevant. The downside of Pixis is it does hit each player, right? So if we want our card, but we don't want our opponent to get their card, we lose our card or whatever. There's no just milling one person with it. I don't know if we really want Mycosynth Gardens, although it can turn into another Pixis or something. You really want like 3 or 4 mill rocks. Once you get to 3 or 4 mill rocks, that's where you get to the point where you can usually just lock your opponent out of doing anything relevant. The upside of Pixis is it exiles the card. So if there's flashback stuff, like Ancient Grudge used to be a big one, it goes to exile, your opponent can't just mill it and then flash it back. So get down there as a Saga, Pithing Needle. Pithing Needle on the Inkmoth and scoops it up, and Lantern felt pretty good that game. Wow. Okay. Well, off to a good start. Lantern's back, and man, Modern's back. Do we keep this? We got no Lantern. Got no way to find Lantern. Got a million Kodak Shredders, but by themselves, they don't do much. I think we mulligan this one. All right, this hand's actually kind of great. Thoughtseize deals with an answer that's already in our opponent's hand. So let's go Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize to the bottom. We'll keep the bridge. So this might be just turn 1 Ancient Stirrings, and then turn 2 Kodak Shredder Lantern. Opponent. All right. I wonder what they take here. There's arguments for bridge and Lantern, probably, and maybe even Ancient Stirrings. Probably depends on our opponent's hand mostly, and what they have answers to. Some decks just can't. Wow, they take the Ancient Stirrings. Interesting. So what does that mean? Play a Forest. Let's get down the Lantern. Indomitable Creativity. I would have really liked to mill that and then surgically extract it. We could mill a finisher, like an Archon, and then extract it. This Wren is also... Ooh, all right, no Wren this turn. You have more discard. Thoughtseize. Okay, well, can't do anything about that. Not going to surgical the Inquisition. So I can take the Kodak Shredder to shut down the lock. I can take the bridge, because the bridge is actually very good against Archon of Cruelty. They take the surgical. Well, we will untap. We'll draw the Urza Saga. Play the Kodak Shredder. And I think we have to mill this Wren for now. Actually, do we? Do we need to mill the Wren? We could let our opponent draw the Wren and then trust that we're going to Pithing Needle it. They don't currently have a fetch, and if they had one, they would have played it last turn, I think. Well, maybe they just wanted to Thoughtseize. Yeah, we're just going to pass. We're going to let our opponent draw the Wren, I think. It's a tough decision, because it kind of prices us into getting a Pithing Needle with off the Urza Saga when we might want to get something else. Actually, you know what? Let's mill it. We're going to mill it. All right, Widowfoil's on top, sure. Because we might need to get like a Graveyard Hate with the Urza Saga. We'll see. We do need to get this Ensnaring Bridge on the battlefield ASAP. Stomping grounds for our opponent. Oh, we got a Fable, maybe? Faithless Looting. Okay. Well, opponent. Okay. Lightning Bolt, Faithless Looting, Bloodstained Mire, and finds a Wren anyway. Well, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Because we can... Oh, so we know the creativity is going to happen. We're probably okay with them drawing the Archon. Let's mill this Glimmer Void because we could, well, we can't even cast a Thoughtseize, can we? Yeah, I think we still mill it. Actually, there's no point. Okay, we're just going to draw it. We're going to draw the Glimmer Void. Lantern of Insight on the top. Take up the Urza Saga. Play Ensnaring Bridge. Pass the turn. We'll let our opponent draw the Archon. An Archon in the hand is fine. I imagine we're about to get Indomitable Creativity, but we'll see. We know they have the creativity in hand, right? So they can fetch out the land, make the token, creativity, get an Archon, but it can't attack us through the bridge. And now we get a Pithing Needle to shut down the Wren. And then as long as we can keep our opponent from blowing up the bridge, we should be good. That's the game plan. We'll see if it works. Get back to Bloodstained Mire. All right, opponent's passing. I mean, we'll draw another Lantern. That's fine. Surgical on top. So let's float a mana. Not going to bother with a Construct. And I'm pretty sure we just have to get a Pithing Needle, right? The other option is Grafdigger's Cage. So the Grafdigger's Cage would shut down Indomitable Creativity. Yeah, I think we just have to Pithing Needle, though. An Archon that can't attack. Is it even really an Archon? Let's name Wrenn and 6. Shut down the Wrenn and 6. Play the Lantern of Insight number 2. Oh, we got floating mana. Play the Lantern number 2. Play the Glimmer Void. There was also a potentially sneaky line where we named Wooded Foothills, since there's another one on top of the deck. But the Wren is just too big of a long-term problem. Like, we just have to answer the Wren, so... If they didn't have a Wren, Pithing Needle on Wooded Foothills would actually be kind of hilarious. Well, let's see what's on the top. Opponent shuffles into a Fable the Mirror Breaker, makes a token. I kind of want to mill the Fable. I think it's worth milling the Fable. Yeah, let's mill the Fable. Faithless Looting on top. Do we need to shuffle that? Maybe, probably. All right, yeah, sack a Lantern. Get rid of the Faithless Looting. Persist. Okay, that's fine. All right, opponent on tap draws a Persist. I think we got a shot. I wish I knew what was in our opponent's hand. Bloodstained Mire, Dwarven Mine, and Indomitable Creativity. But this isn't gonna... That's hilarious. I was not expecting that. So we get to spin into 2 artifacts. We don't have any creatures. What a cool play by our opponent. The problem for our opponent is we have this Academy Ruins. So we can actually just reassemble. So we get another bridge anyway. Okay, that's actually insanely hilarious. So we spin into another bridge anyway, and a Mox Opal. And now I guess we can just put the Pithing Needle on top of our deck and shut down the Wren again. All right, opponent gets back to Wooded Foothills. Opponent drawing the Thoughtseize is perfectly fine. Can't attack us. Well, we will get back the Pithing Needle. 1 and 2, and Academy Ruins. Pithing Needle going back on the top. All right, so we draw the Pithing Needle. We play the Pithing Needle. If I can type it. All right, Wrenn and 6. Shut down again. Wow, I don't know if I've ever seen the defensive Indomitable Creativity like that before. So we will just pass the turn, see what happens. Opponent drawing Thoughtseize, 100% fine here. So there's an Archon in hand, a Persist in hand, a Thoughtseize in hand, and an Unknown card. So opponent's got a Faithless Looting. We know they're drawing a Thoughtseize. The second card was what? Discards the Archon. So they can persist the Archon into play. Not that it does a ton here. Wooded Foothills. Gets another Dwarven Mine. We are going to mill this Fomori Vault. Another Faithless Looting. Yeah, I feel like we should be able to see the second card our opponent draws there, but we can't. And, all right, there's the Persist on the Archon. So opponent's going to draw the Fatal Push. Oh, another Faithless Looting. That's awkward. Faithless Looting is really good here. Now let's mill the Fomori Vault. Top card's a Thoughtseize. Okay, I kind of like that. Do we get back the second bridge is the question. But no, we want to draw the Thoughtseize. Yeah, I mean, I guess we just let it go for now. Thoughtseize you. Get that perfect information. Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, Persist. So not a very good hand. Now let's take the Persist. Sadly, I think we have to mill the Faithless Looting. All right, into an Arid Maze, so that's fine. They can still flash it back, but it minimizes the number of times they can do it. So we need to dodge another Indomitable Creativity. That's the card that really gets us. Or potentially does. As we saw last time, like, it can blow up our stuff, but we get other stuff to replace it, so you never know. Faithless Looting does make this harder. Faithless Looting is very good. I don't know. Another Fatal Push. That's good. That's not going to beat us. So our opponent can Faithless Looting, filter away some of the jank, draw the Fatal Push, and a card that we apparently don't get. Okay. Indomitable Creativity on the top of the deck, but that's not in hand. Arid Mesa for our opponent. Fable. Oh, another. Okay, so they're going to draw the Indomitable Creativity. I don't know if this is as good as they think, though, right? Because unless they have two of them, don't we just get to Inquisition, the Creativity now? How many do they have left? One Creativity. Okay, so there's still two more in the deck. Is this saying they drew a Blood Crypt? Is this actually revealing what they drew? We'll have to look when we see our opponent's hand. If they have a Blood Crypt, then I think that means maybe it actually is showing us the cards. The second card. I don't know how many answers they have in this deck to what we're doing. I imagine there's a Beseju somewhere. Yeah, they likely have one Beseju. Well, this does kind of price us into drawing the Inquisition because we want to get rid of that Creativity. The Persist doesn't matter, so that's good. Passing. Ghoul Caller's Bow. Okay, that's actually pretty good. Inquisition you. Take the Creativity. All right, opponent's got nothing in hand. Nothing in hand, that's where we want to be. Let's see if they shuffle away this Persist. I feel like we're getting close to having this locked up. Close. Wow, opponent not going to shuffle. They're going to wait. Okay, Inquisition, that's fine. Persist is also fine. Like, even Reanimating Archons is even fine. Another land. Passing. I just love this deck. I love the play style. I know it's miserable. I love it. I absolutely... Oh, there's our Beseju. Well, let's play a Ghoul Caller's Bell. Stack up some more mill rocks. Pass the turn. We don't want to mill the Inquisition. That's a dead card. You may draw it, opponent. Basically, you do... Ooh, okay, opponent's going to do some shuffling here. See if they can find some action. Raccoon Theater. All right, they can mill the Wren, I guess. I don't know how many outs our opponent. Archon of Cruelty. Sure. We're kind of... I mean, if they want to play another Archon, they're not actually going to beat us with Archon triggers. As long as they can't attack. If they can start attacking, it becomes bad, but kind of fine with our opponent just hard casting it. Fable, we're probably going to mill. We don't really want our opponent to draw that. Can they hard cast? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they got to crack the fetch. If they crack the fetch, they can Archon. What are they casting? Don't we know their hand? Isn't it Archon Persist? Oh, I think they just realize they have to crack their fetch. I don't know if they want to, because they want the Fable. Although, we're going to mill the Fable. Well, we don't really want this Beseju, I don't think. Let's mill our opponent. Mill away the Fable. I guess Beseju is kind of fine. It does change the top card of the deck or blow up a land. Lightning Bolt. Yeah, you know what? Let's just mill both. We're actually getting close to the, like, close out the game mode. Opponent's only got 23 cards after this. So we're getting close to the, like, actually we're trying to mill you out now plan. We can get back another Lantern or another Bridge. The thing is, I feel like if they're blowing a Bridge, it's gonna... Oh, there's a Pixis. Okay, we'll take a Pixis. That's fine. And I think this one might be unlocked now. I'm pretty sure. So opponent's drawing a land, and I think we've reached the point where we have 3 mills plus the Lantern, plus Bridge for protection. I'd be surprised if our opponent can draw a relevant card from here. The Pixis is also nice because it lets us snipe like Faithless Looting or something, the flashbacky stuff. So the way to play against Lantern is you don't want to save up your shuffles, which is, I assume why your opponent's not just cracking the fetch. Like, your best plan is to save up anything that can shuffle your deck and then try to draw something relevant when we have to tap some of our mill rocks to mill something off the top of your deck. That's like the way that you can try to get through it. So you just save up every fetch, every card draw effect, and try to have a big turn where you like get something that breaks out of the lock. Because if you can't break out of the lock, like it all fall, like if they get one turn without us having Ensnaring Bridge, we're just gonna lose the game. Like that's kind of how it works. So it's not like you need a bunch of turns of doing this. Like you just need one turn of breaking the lock and then you're off to the races. Boy, Moto's been so laggy today. It's actually like concerning me just for timeout purposes. How long this spinning is going on. It's making me a little nervous because Lantern does not play quick matches. So a little bit of a fear that it could be a run out of time situation, but opponent, enjoy your Arid Mesa. Oh, they're going to shuffle it. Okay. Well, now we got to be alert. Fable the Mirror Breaker. Opponent can Surveil first. Let's see. I'm sure they probably want that, but we do not want them to have that. So we will Codex Shredder them. And a mountain. That's fine. You may draw a mountain, friend. It's so fun to control your opponent's draws. Just make sure they never draw anything relevant about it. Here comes the Archon. All right, there's the Archon. They're going to draw Bloodstained Mire. We're not going to mill the Bloodstained Mire. Another land on top. Opponent plays a Bloodstained Mire and passing. All right, let's see if we can close this out. Let's exile with Pixis. Mill with Ghoul Caller's Bell. Beseju on top. Well, that does need to go. Let's mill with Ghoul Caller's Bell. Yeah, we'll draw Ancient Stirrings. That's fine. So let's Ancient Stirrings. Yeah, let's take the Pithing Needle and Assassin's Trophy on the top. Yeah, let's play Pithing Needle. I think we've reached the cutoff fetch land part of the game. We're going to name Bloodstained Mire, which shuts off a shuffle, or actually 2 shuffles, because one on top. The lock is strengthening. Now our opponent can't shuffle to change the top of their deck. Wait, do they have a third in a row? It's another Bloodstained Mire. It's another Bloodstained Mire. Well, let's mill this Assassin's Trophy. Spire of Industry. We don't really want that, but sure, whatever. I think that's fine. We gotta not time out. That's the main challenge. All right, pass the turn. Draws another land on top. Passing. Well, let's mill with Google Color Spell. Mill with Kodak Shredder. Exile with Pixis of Pandemonium. Fable on top, eh? Well, we found another bridge, which isn't bad. All right, so let's Plansnaring Bridge, number 2. And we don't really want you to draw Fable, so let's mill away the Fable. Arid Mesa, though, that's acceptable. Opponent's down to 10 cards in their deck, so we're actually very close to just actually winning this game. All right, Milia down to 8. Exile the Persist down to 7. Faithless Looting on top, so we are going to have to exile that. When you draw Mishra's Bauble, doesn't really matter. Yeah, exile the Faithless Looting, play the Bauble. And I think we're 2 turns away from the full Lantern kill. Pound it, untaps. Archon on top. Plays the land, and pass it. Well, mill the Archon, crack the Bauble. We do need to get rid of the creativity, but we can. So draw the Kodak Shredder, play Blooming Marsh, exile creativity. Opponent's got what, 2 cards? Oh, we got the win, right? So Kodak Shredder, Milia, 1 card, Milia, 0 cards, pass the turn, and opponent. Would you like to draw a card on an empty library? And that went pretty well. That went really super duper well. They probably have Meltdowns in their deck. Gaddock Teague, assuming we can find the right colors of mana to cast it, does shut down Meltdown. They should cut all the creature removal from their deck. I can see the Necromentia. Can also see the Welding Jars. Destroy X target artifacts or creatures for each permanent destroyed this way. Wait, let me read Welding Jar. Regenerate target artifact. Wait, so if our opponent tries to pop off by blowing up like a treasure token from Fable, we can fizzle it with Welding Jar. That's actually super hilarious. Yeah, let's go down the Baubles, go up to Welding Jars, I think that's fine. So no Baubles, but Gaddock Teague Necromentia. The Soul Guide Lantern could be all right too. They do have graveyard synergies. One more Welding Jar, run it like that. All right, on to game number 2. I mean, no Lantern, but I think this is a keep. The rest of the hand's pretty good, and we can dig for Lantern with Ancient Stirrings, although it might get hit by Thoughtseize. And, well, if they just have the full combo, we might be in trouble here. Kodak Shredder. Play the Welding Jar. Spire of Industry. Ancient Stirrings. I think we got to take the Mox Opal. Oh, it still doesn't let us play it, does it? Huh. The problem is if they just go persist on this Archon, what do we do? And the answer is get down the Ensnaring Bridge, but we can't do that next turn with this hand. I mean, I guess we have to take the Lantern and hope they don't have it. Not great, not great. All right, no persist. How about no persist? This is one of the places that Faithless Looting makes a big impact. Being able to potentially turn to an Archon reanimation way more consistently than you could before. All right, so our opponent does not have reanimation, at least. Although they can take our Lantern or our bridge. Gonna take the Lantern. Yep. All right, so they don't have the persist. I see. We draw. Okay, Thoughtseize is not the worst. Well, let's Thoughtseize you. See what we're dealing with over there. Wrenn, break the ice. I guess it's 6 mana to overload, but even losing 1 land hurts. Take the break the ice. Pithing Needle the Wrenn. Opponent, learn to crack their fetch lands. Pithing Needle the Wrenn, and then survive the Beseju is the idea. All right, mills a land, that's fine. Well, Wrenn in 6 with the Pithing Needle and ship the turn. I'm actually getting very nervous about timing out, and I feel like it's not really my fault because I don't feel like we're playing slow. It's just like this kind of stuff, just like pass the turn and Moto waiting for server lags for like 20 seconds. That's weird. Moto is normally not like this. Like, yes, it gets laggy when you have like an obscene board state, like when something crazy is going on, but it doesn't usually lag severely when you're just like passing the turn or something. Fable. All right, Faithless Looting flashback. All right, they discard another Archon and the Wren. Well, let's see what we find. Lantern. Okay, Lantern is sweet. I like that. Let's play the Lantern. Dwarven Mine on top. Kodak Shredder. Opponent can draw the Dwarven Mine, I think. It does let the... Oh, there's a creativity. We do not want them to draw creativity. Faithless Looting. Well, okay. In response. Gonna mill that creativity real quick. Inquisition. Ooh, okay. Inquisition's actually kind of good for our opponent. That can get rid of the bridge. That's gonna make it even more important. So Inquisition, Arid Mesa was the second draw. So it is showing us the second draw, just in a weird place. We don't really know the rest of their hand anyway. So I imagine they Inquisition away the bridge. And then, I wish I knew our opponent's hand. Knowing our opponent's hand would make this much easier. Discards a Dwarven Mine. Inquisition's gonna take the bridge. 2 cards, one's Beseiju, one is unknown. And okay, well, we know the hand. We know the hand, and I think we're actually in good shape now. I think we might be okay. Ancient Stirrings, Urza Saga. We do want the Grafdigger's Cage, but play the Urza Saga. That is a target our opponent can actually Beseiju if they want to. If they Beseiju one of our artifacts, we can just regenerate. Play the Ghoul Caller's Bell. Outside of having a bridge on the battlefield, we have kind of done the thing that we're trying to do. Are we cracking the fetch? Yes, opponent cracks. Gets a Dwarven Mine, but still has land on top. So their card is definitely Beseiju, right? It's definitely Beseiju. They do have a Faithless Looting in the graveyard. That does give them a shot at an unknown card. Opponent gonna get it and hit us. Well, let's mill this forest. All right, another Kodak Shredder. That's fine. Uh-oh, what are we doing? Are we blowing up the... So we're gonna blow up the Urza Saga. Oh, do we even have a basic left? We just milled our forest. We do not. That's awkward. All right, well, what's on top of our deck? Kodak Shredder still. All right, well, I guess we are just destined to draw a Kodak Shredder. And now the Beseiju's out of our opponent's hand. Play the Kodak Shredder. And pass the turn. Oh, if it wasn't for the Faithless Looting, I feel like we kind of had it locked in. Shuffle it away. Back into another Wooded Foothills. We do need to find a bridge at some point. And a land. So we need bridge and land. Draws a land. Land still on top. Goes to if we lose to these dwarf tokens, I swears to God, Spawna gets in, hits us. Well, let's mill this Thoughtseize. So draw the bridge, pass the turn. So now we mostly want to mill ourselves into a land so we can get the bridge down. And that might actually do it. That might be it. Yeah, I think we gotta mill that. That's kind of brutal here. Stomping Ground is fine. Our opponent is gonna get to Faithless Looting, which scares me a little bit. Yeah. Yes, we are going to mill Beseiju. Lightning Bolt. Yeah, I mean, I guess you get to draw a bolt and... Oh, no! Oh, dear, that's a meltdown. That is exactly the disaster. So there's a meltdown. So we need to Welding Jar. Oh, and they have a Faithless Looting on top. Jeez. So Welding Jar, the Lantern of Insight. Yeah, what a blowout. Man, well, we're seeing the Faithless Looting paying off for our opponent. Well, mill the Faithless Looting. Opponent gonna get in for 3. Oh, that was the worst position for that meltdown to be. Like, literally the unbeatable position for us. Land on top, please. Thoughtseize, not good. Well, play the Kodak Shredder. We have to mill the Wren. There's no choice. Oh, yep. All right, game 3. We gotta go to game 3. We're gonna run out of time. Man, so meltdown is a scary card that's very good against us. That was a rough spot for it to be, being the second card down on the Faithless Looting. Like, Faithless Looting, I guess, actually makes our deck a little bit worse because that's something we can't control. We can control the top card, but we can't control... Oh, this hand looks very, very good. I mean, we gotta keep this. This is about as good as one of our draws is gonna be. We actually get, what, turn 1 Lantern plus Kodak Shredder with Surgical available? We're just going to dump our hand here. Oh, but what about Meltdown? If our opponent just has Meltdown in their opening hand. So we will play Spire of Industry. We will play Welding Jar. We will play a Mox Opal. We will play a Lantern of Insight. Kodak Shredder. Wow, this is actually kind of hilarious. We will mill the Archon of Cruelty. We will surgically extract the Archon of Cruelty. What else can they creativity into? Nothing? Nothing, right? So we need to not die to Fable, the Mirror Breakers, and Tokens and Wrens. Their answers, 2 Beseijus. How many Meltdowns? They have 1 in hand. Ugh, the 1 in hand's an issue. Oh, this is going to be a weird game. Well, yeah. Exile the Archons. Pass the turn. Opponent has a land on top, which I guess is fine. We need to try to find a Thoughtseize, I guess. Like, now-ish? Found it. Arid Mesa. Cracks it. Bloodstained Mire. Wren on top. And Inquisition, that's a whiff. Oh, do we have to mill the Wrenn? Probably. I want to mill the Boseiju. Oh, we're going to get melted down. Yeah, we're going to draw the Boseiju, unfortunately. Play the Urza Saga. Mill the Wrenn. Ah! Come on. You know what? Oh, boy, this sucks, but we got to do it. All right, shuffle away the Wrenn. Pass the turn. Oh, boy. The top of our opponent's library has been in an unfortunate order for us. 2 Wrenns in a row, and we lose our Lantern. And we know they can still cast this Meltdown and blow us out. There's the Stomping Grounds. There's the Meltdown. Well, we're going to save the Kodak Shredder. We lose the Mox Opal, lose the Protection. I mean, our opponent doesn't even have win cons, but I don't know if we can win fast enough because of all this Moto lag. That is a concern. We're going to have to play really fast here. All right, let me draw the Welding Jaw. All right, Urza Saga. This might be an Urza Saga game. Play it, pass the turn. Yeah, I think this is a construct kind of game. Wooded Foothills. Opponent's going to Faithless Looting. The Indomitable Creativity doesn't really do anything anymore, right? With no Archons. Opponent passing. Make a construct. Untap. Saga's going to trigger 1 and 2. Make a construct. I mean, the constructs are a way we could maybe win quickly. Lantern of Insight. Opponent has a Persist on top. That's fine. We have a Bridge on top. Well, play the Academy Ruins. Go to combat. Hit you for 5. And, I mean, our opponent can draw that Persist. That's fine. Pass the turn. Opponent's going to shuffle. What do they got on top now? Wrenn. Well, I think we have to mill it. Lightning Bolt's fine. I don't think we survive a second Meltdown. If they have a second Meltdown, we're in a whole heap of trouble. If not, constructs through the Meltdown. Wow. Our opponent had a new hate card that did not exist last time we were lanterning in Meltdown, but we had a new card too in Urza Saga. And even though Urza Saga, it's so funny in this deck because we can make these huge constructs, but usually you have an ensnaring bridge so they can't attack. That was an example where Urza Saga lets Lantern do something that it could not do in the past. Like the ability to just be like, okay, we got blown out by a Meltdown. Our clock's running down. Let's make a couple of 5/5s and hope for the best. And it actually worked. Wow, what a game. What a game. Man, I'm loving Modern right now. I'm loving it. I have not been so happy to play Modern in so long. Like seriously, I've been missing this so much. I hope you all have been missing Modern too, because I've really been missing Modern and I am so happy that it's fun again right now. 2 Surgicals is weird. We technically don't have any of our pieces, but we got a bunch of ways to dig for. You know what? We're gonna try this. I think this is fine. We'll see how good these 2 Surgicals are. That I'm not sure about, but technically we have 0 combo pieces, but 2 Ancient Stirrings and an Urza Saga should hopefully be able to find them. Well, that's Ancient Stirrings. Do some digging. Well, so much for the finding our combo pieces theory. Well, we'll take the Gardens. I think that's fine. The Bobble's not really doing much at the moment anyway. So take the Gardens. This is going to give us a replacement land for when we lose our Urza Saga. These Surgical Extractions, I think, are either going to win us or lose us this game. I'm pretty confident we're either going to win or lose because of these. It's either going to be a matchup where they do nothing, and then we have 2 dead cards, and we essentially mold to 5. Or our opponent's going to be like Faithless Looting Persisting or something, and they're going to be the best cards in our deck and single-handedly win us the game. Blood Grip for our opponent. Untap. Inquisition. Well, now our opponent knows about the Surgicals, which makes them worse, and they can take our Ancient Stirrings, which makes that worse. Yeah. Oh, opponent takes a Pithing Needle. Okay, so that makes me think they have Wrenn in hand. And we're going to draw Bobble anyway. Well, that's Ancient Stirrings. Got to be better than the last one, right? Man, are we just needling a Wrenn? Are we just doing it in the blind? Is that insane? It is insane. Should we just do it anyway? We could also like take a Pixis and set up for when our Urza Saga is going to find us. I'm going to take the Pithing Needle because our opponent, purely because our opponent Inquisitioned it, that makes me think that it must actually be pretty good. Let's take a peek. Maybe this reveals something. Stop. You know what? I'm going to do it. Now that we see the green mana, I'm just going to name Wrenn in 6 in the dark. We've seen the colors of Wrenn in 6. We saw our opponent Inquisition or Pithing Needle. To me, that all adds up to they're trying to resolve a Wrenn in 6. That's the thing that makes sense to me from that. Kind of a guess. Maybe we're totally off base, but Faithless Looting. Decent chance we end up Surgicaling this Faithless. That's a kind of a cool. Is that Devilish Valet? Where did this come from? I don't even know this art. Not as good as everyone's favorite art with the guy with the soup, but this does look nice. I think the borderless cards, like Ah, it was a Ren. Nailed it. Nailed it. Opponent passing. Well, I mean, we're going to spend Surgical #1 on Faithless Looting. I think it's worth it. Faithless Looting is very annoying for our deck. Fatal Push, Indomitable Creativity, and a Dwarven Mine. Well, we know what our opponent's up to, which is trying to put Archons into play. Where's the Arc? Is this an Archon? Oh, all right. Fancy Archons. All right, we played this matchup once. We know what it's trying to do. So 2 Fatal Pushes, Dwarven Mine, Indomitable Creativity. Well, that's what we got to beat. No Faithless Lootings to worry about. And let's see what we can draw. Oh, we can get the Grafdigger's Cage. That's actually kind of big. How about drawing a Lantern of Insight? We can start making constructs. Yeah, that's probably our game plan. Oh, I forgot to do a Beseiju check. I assume they're playing 1 Beseiju. Well, all right. Urza Saga ticking up. What happens if he Mycosynth Gardens a Pithing Needle? Do you get to name anything? I almost think you don't, because it's as it enters the battlefield, not when it enters the battlefield. Do we have to look it up? We might have to. Because naming the next Pithing Needle goes on Beseiju, I think. Yeah. So the Garden copy does literally do nothing, which is kind of what I assumed. Well, let's play the Mycosynth Gardens, pass the turn. Make some constructs, which are going to die to Fatal Pushes, but whatever. Thoughtseize? I mean, we might as well surgically extract something, right? Or do we even want to surgically extract anything? Surgically extract our baubles? Yeah, I mean, we'll get rid of the Wrens. In case they blow up the Pithing Needle, like, Ren Beseiju is an issue, so getting rid of all the Wrens does have some value. Enough that it's probably worth 2 life, since we're going to lose this anyway, so we might as well get some value out of it. And then we can do a Beseiju check again. I was looking for Archons, but we need to look for what can actually answer our stuff. So I got the Archons. They have 1 Beseiju and the Indomitable Creativities. Those are the things that can answer our artifacts. Well, get rid of the Wrens. Opponent Thoughtseizes. See our barren hand. Opponent Stomping Ground stepped. Well, 1 and 2. Make a construct. See what we draw. Ancient Stirrings. Well, 1 and 2. Make a construct. And I think we got to grab our Grafdigger's Cage here. As much as we'd like to set up for the future, I think that's just necessary. Yeah, let's play the Urza Saga. Get in for 4. This might be another aggro game. Like, our opponent's down to 11. We can probably just present lethal. They have the Fatal Pushes. But this does mean they don't get to just get an Archon this turn, which is kind of huge. Dwarven Mine makes a token. Wait, does this work? Huh? Oh, okay, kind of an idiot. Okay, disregard all the stupid things I said. None of this actually does anything. Yeah, so Indomitable Creativity. Did not read it carefully enough. Reveals cards from the top of their library until they hit an artifact or creature card and exiles that card. Then those players put the cards onto the battlefield and then shuffle. The card's not coming to play from the graveyard. Well, I mean, I guess there was nothing else we were going to get that, or from the graveyard or the library. I guess there was nothing else we were going to get that was going to stop this, but we would have been better off just getting like a Lantern of Insight or something, I guess. We pretty much need to top deck an Ensnaring Bridge, like right now. Codex Shredder. So Saga ticks up. Well, we will Ancient Stirrings. Go digging. Grab an Ensnaring Bridge. And pass turn. We got to hold on to the Codex Shredder so we don't have to discard the bridge. So we don't die this turn. But this is still bad. Yeah, we got to sack our, so much for our aggro win. Got to discard a Codex Shredder that we wanted. We dropped to 4. Grafdigger's Cage. Not doing it in this matchup. Oh, wow. And they draw an Inquisition. All right, Bloodstained Mire. Well, can we draw another bridge? Seems pretty unlikely. Ancient Stirrings, that doesn't do it. Actually, we have 1 shot at it. The power of Mox Opal. So we can get a Mox Opal. This gives us enough mana that we can cast an Ancient Stirrings, and if we hit a bridge, we can still cast it. Gotta be Brit. Well, all right, that's a whiff. Well, you can give me the punts in chat for that one. Grafdigger's Cage, not getting the job done against Indomitable Creativity. So, Necromention, Gaddock Tegan, Welding Jars, in. Mishra's Baubles, Grafdigger's Cage. Get it out of here. My God, was that a bad Grafdigger's Cage? Yeah, I guess just the rest of the Baubles. Yeah, let's run it like that. Oh no, are we getting our first loss? Maybe. Yeah, Archon of Cruelty. It's quite a card. And this is a Meltdown matchup. Ugh. Meltdown is legit very good against us. Maybe a little bit of punting last game, but I will say overall, the deck seems to be working pretty well. If this hand had colored mana rather than Urza Saga, it would actually be very good, but it does not. And we can't turn on the Mox. Yeah, we're going to mulligan it. I think we keep this almost solely based on the power of Thoughtseize Surgical. Because if they have like a Creativity or an Archon in hand, this can really, really blow them out. Well, that's a Thoughtseize. Is that an Archon? Okay, well, we will take the Archon. And we will surgically extract the Archons. And we will see if our opponent can beat us without their Archons, which maybe. One Beseiju. Where's the meltdowns? No meltdowns. Okay. They have a pick your poison. The creativities that don't do anything anymore, except maybe blow up our stuff. I cast into the fire. Well, I mean, we're gonna have to figure out a way to beat the Ren and the Fable, but opponent's finishers are down. That is kind of huge. That is what we were hoping for. That is the best value we could get out of Thoughtseize Surgical, is just get rid of the Archons forever. So I imagine our opponent's going to Inquisition our Inquisition, so we don't take their Ren or Fable. And then we just got to figure out how to... Yeah, there's the Thoughtseize. So now we need to find a Lantern of Insight. Need to find a Pithing Needle for the Ren, and find a bridge for the Fable. Opponent, passing. Play the Pixis. Play the Spire of Industry, and pass the turn. Do we start blind activating? Opponent, Bloodstained Mire. They're gonna get to start doing Ren stuff, which is not ideal. Oh, they also have a Beseiju in hand. Ugh. Beseiju Ren is very, very awkward. We gotta get rid of this Ren, or the Beseiju. There's the Ren. Yes, this one is not looking great. Opponent's gonna get back the land. Yeah, let's blind activate. We're in desperation mode. We're off to we got rid of the Archons, but I feel like we're in a really bad position right now because of the Beseiju and the Ren. So when you're in a bad position, I think you just want to create variance, right? If you feel like you're losing, if you just keep doing the same thing, you're probably going to lose. So do the different thing, and maybe something crazy happens. Fomori Vault. Well, okay, I guess that could do something eventually. We will pass the turn. The Beseiju is going to eat away all of our stuff, though, if we don't find an answer. Opponent gets back the Bloodstained Mire. I imagine a Fable the Mirror Breaker is coming. Bloodstained Mire for our opponent. And this Ren's going to ultimate, too. There's the Fable. Well, we're going to stick to our Chaos plan. Boom, Pixis. What's getting exiled? No one knows. Hopefully not our Lantern of Insights and Pithing Needles. Well, we learned something from this match, which is apparently surgically away the Archons is not good enough to beat this deck. We kept a hand with the goal being to do that, and we did that on turn 1. I mean, I guess we have just drawn a bunch of lands for the rest of the game, which isn't good, and that's about it. But Urza Saga, you'd be wonderful if it wasn't for that Beseiju. Well, okay, Urza Saga. I think we're gonna somehow, we beat the decks with the finishers, but I think we're gonna lose to the deck with no finishers somehow. Got rid of all the Archons, but does not. Opponent has so many dead cards too. Without the Archons, Persist is dead, Indomitable Creativity is dead. They have a pretty long list of cards that are just dead, but yeah, I guess our opponent also had a really good hand. They had a hand that had the Ren and the Fable and the Beseiju. So even just losing their Archons, they're still just in glorious, glorious shape. And we are in max flood mode. Yeah, there's our one basic, and this one's about over. Well, I guess it's fair that the prison deck sometimes gets locked out as well. I guess there's no draw that saves us here, right? Yeah, I think it's actually very close to scoop time. Even if we draw, so our best draw is Pithing Needles, shut down the Ren, or to shut down the Beseiju, but then the Ren's gonna ultimate. It's gotta be Pithing Needle right here. That's the one maybe out. Ancient Stirrings, well, that can dig. Ancient Stirrings, no Pithing Needle. Yeah, we're actually just locked. I mean, so the problem here, just so it's clear, is Ren Beseiju, our opponent just gets to blow up one of our permanents every turn, and we do not have a way to stop that, and we don't have any lands left in our deck that are tutorable. So we're just gonna lose literally all of our permanents. So, well, we learned something. We learned two things. One is, don't Grafdigger's Cage against Indomitable Creativity. Bad idea. 2 is, just getting rid of the Archons, not good enough. I mean, as good as the deck's been so far, we talked about going into this. There's 2 questions here, right? There's 2 questions about Lantern control. One is, to set the context, the deck died after Mox Opal was banned. It got way, way worse. But a lot of other things happened as well. Around that same time is when we got Beseiju, we got Meltdown, all these hate cards that are really good against what we're trying to do. So did Lantern die because Mox Opal wasn't providing the fast mana? Or did Lantern die because of Beseiju and all these hate cards? And Mox Opal, why a nice addition, isn't actually really going to change much of anything. This game, I think, was a good example of how Boseiju is an issue. But we've played against Boseiju, I think, every round, basically, and we managed to maneuver around it the first 2 rounds. So I don't think it's a deal breaker necessarily, but it does open up this possibility of just like, and I guess really, this isn't just Boseiju, it was Ren plus Boseiju, and that just absolutely got the lot going. Well, we know we can beat this deck because we already played it once, but yeah, that one was kind of a blowout. We have okay things. We have 2 lands, but we have nothing that really sets up. I mean, we have a Pixis, but it's just we're going to mulligan this. It's kind of a scattering of like one of things that we'd rather have in our deck. All right, this will keep. We'll put the Boseiju to the bottom. All right, well, I mean, we got some Ancient Stirrings to do some digging. Need to find the Lantern of Insight, or maybe like an Urza's Saga to find the Lantern of Insight, see what our opponent's up to. But this hand's fine. We got the Mox, so we're going to get some extra mana at some point. The other upside of Mox is it's another 0. Like, the other thing about this deck is it is an Ensnaring Bridge deck, right? So being able to make sure you can stay empty-handed is really important, which is why we don't really play anything that's expensive in the deck. Like, Bridge is our most expensive card. We don't really want like a 4-drop or a 5-drop because if we draw it, then we can't hide behind the Bridge because we have cards in hand, and then things can snowball in a really bad direction. So Mox is just like another cheap thing that even gives us more mana to make sure we can play everything else in our hand as quickly as possible to get our Ensnaring Bridge going. Ever since the bannings, have not really seen much energy, which doesn't have me convinced that energy is no longer good. More, I think it's that we've seen a lot of people try new things, but it is encouraging, at least, that we haven't just seen energy and energy and energy. Opponent might be twinning. Opponent appears to have an upkeep stop set. Upkeep stop set. I don't know why it's so fun to say that. All right, Tamiyo. Oh, there's an Ensnaring Bridge. Play the Forest. Play an Ancient Stirrings. Could also take Pithing Needle to shut down the Tamiyo. Not even an Urza's Saga. Yeah, let's just take Blooming Marsh. Blooming Marsh is fine. Well, there's a bunch of lands to the bottom, so we're not going to be seeing those for a minute. Pass the turn. Gonna get in with the Tamiyo. Make a clue. We mostly just need to Pithing Needle the backside of Tamiyo. That's the side that can draw half of our opponent's deck and get stuff back from the graveyard, both of which are not good for us. Steam Vents for our opponent. Untap passes. Well, there's an Inquisition. Play the Blooming Marsh. Inquisition our opponent. That's a lot of counters. Well, we're going to take the Snapcaster. We're going to play an Ancient Stirring. Okay, there's the Lantern. Unclear that we will be able to resolve the Lantern, but that is a Lantern. Opponent going to crack the clue. So I think the main purpose of Tamiyo in our opponent's deck is probably to keep the counters turned on. Opponent gets in clue. The card draw is an issue. Boy, that's an issue. And it's 0 powered. Ooh, that's kind of cute. Lantern of Insight. Well, let's see how much they want to stop Lantern of Insight. Lantern of Insight. Are we sacking Tamiyo? It is the namesake card of the deck. Well, opponent lets it go. Play Mycosynth Gardens. Pixis of Pandemonium. Mox Opal as well. Pass the turn. I think opponent drawing Snapcaster's okay. I think. It's not good. It's not good. It's not what we were hoping for, but we can shut it down with the Surgical opponent. Yeah, Tamiyo's actually kind of a problem, isn't it? 0 power means it can just keep doing this all game, even through the bridge. Somehow, Tamiyo being a 1/3 would actually make it less powerful against our deck. Another clue. Sacking the clue to draw a card. Wait, let's look at their hand again. They played the Steam Vents, so they can Lorien Revealed for it. We want them to have to sack the Tamiyo. Yeah, I think we actually exile it. All right, opponent's going to draw another Tamiyo. And there is a Splinter Twin. Cycles Lorien Revealed. Counterspell on top. And there's an island. Yeah, this Tamiyo, my god. Well, we draw a Pixis. Play a Pixis. I mean, we're going to play the Ensnaring Bridge. It doesn't stop the Tamiyo, but it stops the combo. Let's see if they sack the Tamiyo for it. Oh, they have a Spell Pierce, okay. So opponent's hand, Snapcaster, Flare, 2 unknowns. I guess we gotta let them draw the counter spell. Slink into Stupor. We do not really want our opponent to draw Slink into Stupor. Sure, their goal might be to flip the Tamiyo here. All right, well, we are going to exile, get rid of the Slink into Stupor. Splinter Twin on top. Well, I guess we're gonna exile the Splinter Twin. Opponent going to draw a Lightning Bolt. All right, we find an Urza's Saga, which is actually pretty good. That gets through the counter spells. And in theory, eventually finds us a Pithing Needle for Tamiyo, if that's what we need. Yep, so opponent's going to flip. Another Splinter Twin on top. Well, we're going to have to get rid of that. Opponent takes up the Tamiyo. Sure. Wait, did they get to draw half their deck before we Urza Saga? They might. How many twins do we have exiled? We exiled one earlier, right? Didn't we? Wait, where's the exile pile? Why are these? Oh, they're face down. We did exile one. Exile the twin. Opponent can draw the steam vents, pass the turn. We have a bridge on top. I don't know if we want the bridge or not. It's just going to get countered. I'm glad we got a bunch of Pixuses, though, because it's helping keep the graveyard clear of Snapcaster targets. Taking up the Tamiyo. Playing even more Tamiyos. Thunder Trap Trainer going to do some digging. So many redraws. Well, there's the Deceiver Exarch. Wait, did they whiff? I think they whiffed. Oh, they're going to counter the bridge, right? It's just, you know what? We're going to exile. We're going to turn this Mycosynth Gardens into a Pixis. What a weird matchup. All right, so now we get a Pixis, another Pixis. We will draw Mishra's Bauble. Take up the Urza Saga. Well, I mean, play the Bauble. And pass the turn. I mean, I think our main hope is just like exile enough win cons that maybe our opponent just can't really kill us. It's funny that the Mycosynth Garden stays in the mana base. This Tamiyo though. Just the card draw from the Tamiyo opponent's gonna get it. Well, I guess we make a huge construct to make them beat it. Block the Thunder Trap. I mean, we do have a 7/7. A Lightning Bolt. More Lightning Bolts? Gotta be, right? Double Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt, Tamiyo back the Lightning Bolt. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Lightning Bolt, sure. Well, let's do some Pixising. So, exile. Graph-Digger's Cage. We don't really want that either. Opponent wants to draw the Lightning Bolt. Another one on top. All right, well, how about more exiling? Opponent's plan apparently is to burn us out, I guess. Some combination of Bolt Snap Bolts. Well, exile. And then I think we're going to crack the Bauble, probably. I'm not even 100% sure what we're looking for. I guess just more bad mill rocks. Oh, there's a Ghoul Caller's Bell. All right, let's crack the Bauble to draw a card. Untap. Ooh, Surgical on top. That's kind of cute. Make a construct. Do we just play through the Tamiyo and just get even more milling and just try to like turbo mill them out? That might be the most realistic game plan, right? Just like get as much mill as possible. Yeah, I think it is. All right, we're gonna take a Kodak Shredder. The Tamiyo's gonna live. Take a Kodak Shredder. Play a Ghoul Caller's Bell. Splinter Twin versus Lantern Control. A matchup that has never existed before because Splinter Twin got banned before Lantern became a thing. I mean, this might be working. Gonna draw a Fetch. Flare of Denial on top. Lightning Bolts, the 8/8. Wow, are they just gonna spend their entire turn killing the 8/8? Cashes in the Tamiyo. I mean, we're kind of okay with this. Lightning Bolts, the construct. I think when they go to Snapcaster it, then we're gonna Surgical it. And now if our opponent wants to flare, they gotta sack the Tamiyo, right? Okay, they have a counter spell, sure. So opponent gets a Snapcaster, they're gonna bolt down the construct. And then the question's just gonna be, can we mill them out before they kill us? And I'm not sure the answer. It's gonna be close. Opponent getting in, making a clue. Well, we are going to mill the Lorien Revealed, exile the Splinter Twin. We're going to, we gotta activate, right? We gotta try to mill them out. Another Tamiyo and a Thoughtseize on top. Well, mill it. Okay, we kind of want the Urza Saga. We're gonna keep the Urza Saga. All right, so we take 0. Opponent gets a clue. We untap. We do need to get rid of the Flame of Venor, but I feel like we've almost exiled all the twins. Beseju on top. We'll play Urza Saga. Now we gotta make sure our opponent doesn't draw anything good, but we have a lot of mill rocks to make that happen. So Urza Saga, Pixis. We're just gonna exile the Flame because of Snapcasters. Thundertap Trainer. Yeah, I feel like that's good enough to mill. Deceiver Exarch. Yeah, we gotta get rid of that. Flame of Venor. Oh my god. Oh, this is not good. This is not good. Oh my goodness. What an incredible string of action on the top of the deck. Oh, jeez. Okay, well, pass the turn. That was pretty disastrous. Now we are basically shields down. We have our Lantern that we don't really want to sack. We're kind of okay with the Lorien Revealed. Wow, that was 3 Flame of Venors. That really taxed our mill rocks. And our opponent could use a Tamiyo to draw extra cards. They are down to 19 cards in their library, though, which is not a ton. So the extra cards drawn, there is a cost. We don't really want this Thoughtseize. So let's Ghoul Caller's Spell. Exile the Flame of Venor. See if we have a battle here with these clues. Our opponent might try to crack them in response to try to get it. So opponent's going to crack. In response, we are going to Pixis. Opponent's going to crack. In response, we are going to Pixis. So, all right, Counterspell gets exiled. Flame of Lenore gets exiled. Lord Reveal gets exiled. Oh, wait, what did our opponent draw? So they're drawing a Flare, more counters. What are we going to end up with after all this is done? Fleet Archaeologist gets exiled. And we end up with a Mox Opal. So we draw the Mox Opal. Urza Saga ticks up. Well, pass the turn. Well, sure, we are going to make a big construct. If you can kill it, you can kill it. Like, we're planning on killing you with Mill. Like, that is the goal here. If you kill the construct, that's fine. Opponent, Snapcaster. Gotta be that Flame of Venor that slipped through, right? Flame of Venor. Do they actually want to draw 2 cards? Flame of Venor, draw 2 cards, blow up an artifact. All right, yep. Ooh, they drew a lightning bolt. That's actually a little bit frightening. That is actually a little bit frightening. They flipped the Tamiyo. Okay, well, that's good to get rid of the clues. Down to 4. Wow, so it's going to be so close. Down to 14. Takes up the Tamiyo. I mean, we're going to mill the Snapcaster. Deceiver Exarch on top. Untap. Scoops it up. Lantern controlling twin. That one was tough. That was tough because our opponent has... so many ways to change the top of their deck. They have all these redraws. They can use their graveyard. That is a lot of pieces to actually lock down. But our turbo mill plan kind of eventually we're just like, you know what? We're going to mill everything every turn. And it got there just barely. Well, Torpor Orb's insane. Curse Totem also shuts down the twin combo. Soul Guide Lantern, maybe. Could bring in the Gerper Ether Grid. Probably need Fatal Push, just because of Tamiyo. Could bring in the Ether Grid. Could bring in some Welding Jars. Something like this, maybe. What do we cut, though? So probably start with a couple Baubles. The discard is good. Surgical's actually good, too. All of our stuff is good. All of our stuff's good, but we need some more narrow answers. We can't just let Tamiyo pop off like that, I don't think. Now, maybe we cut all the Baubles. And then we still got to cut 3 more cards. Maybe we don't. Do we not Soul Guide Lantern? Maybe Soul Guide Lantern. Maybe we just try to get the Grafdigger's Cage. They're not really a graveyard deck, right? They're a twin deck that just happens to also use the graveyard. Maybe we go like 1 Curse Totem. Let's go to, we won without bridge last game. Let's go down 1 bridge. I am pretty sure this is the first time this matchup has ever existed. I like this hand. It doesn't have a lantern. Outside of not having a lantern, it's pretty good. And our opponent's mulliganing to 5. Steam Vents for our opponent, passing. Ancient Stirrings. Well, play a Mox Opal. Play Spire of Industry. Thoughtseize? Lorien Revealed, Meltdown, Snapcaster. So we got to take the Meltdown. Although, unfortunately, there's still a Snapcaster in hand. Curse Totem shuts down activated abilities, but not all abilities. Found it, cycles. So we're going to need, 4 mana? So we need to find some graveyard hate pretty quick. Or just try to not get too blown out by the Meltdown. Another discard spell could maybe do it. Top card is Michael's at the Gardens. Well, okay. Ancient Stirrings. Yeah, I mean, we got to take the Lantern. The rest go to the bottom. Play Michael's in the Gardens. Play the Lantern. See what's on top. Assassin's Trophy Flooded Strand. Plays the Flooded Strand. Passing. Well, okay. So we draw Assassin's Trophy. Codex Shredder on top. Well, let's play the Michael's in the Gardens. So our opponent has what? Lorien Revealed. Snapcaster Unknown. Well, let's play a Codex Shredder. We could play more, but I don't think we should play more. Do we mill the Flare of Denial? Yeah, we're just gonna let it go. All right, let's see what the new card is. Snapcaster. Well, Snapcaster is millable. Lightning Bolt, sure. Well, let's see if opponent's going to... All right, opponent's gonna shuffle. Gets another Snapcaster. Now let's Assassin's Trophy a land. This is just to make our opponent shuffle away the Snapcaster. We really want our opponent to stop drawing Snapcasters. All right, opponent floats a mana. And okay, Force of Negation on top. Opponent can melt this down if they want to. Another Meltdown. Jeez, that is a lot of Meltdowns. Found it. Snapcaster Mage for the Meltdown. Well, I think we can shuffle our library. Let's shuffle our library. Our opponent's library, we want to mill. I think we want to mill that Meltdown. So we lose our board, unfortunately. Now we need to find another Lantern event. So, well, there's the Welding Jar. Let's play a Ghoul Caller's Bell. Mill away the Meltdown, mill away whatever's on the top of our deck, a land, run out the Curse Totem, and run out the Welding Jar, and pass the turn. So our opponent can't kill us with the twin combo as long as we have Curse Totem. But they can kill us with a Snapcaster Mage. Opponent gets and hits us. And without the Lantern, we're just in the dark here. Pithing Needle. Pass the turn. And we know they have the Force of Negation. So even if we find a bridge, they can kill it. Or they can counter it. They find a Tamiyo. That's also bad. Opponent getting in with the Snapcaster. And that's not an activated ability either. Opponent hits us down to 11. Well, that's School Caller's Bell Mill. Codex Shredder and a Blood Moon. Ooh, Blood Moon. Well, it's good to know about the Blood Moon. There's the bridge, but it's going to get countered. I mean, it's not going to get any better, so we're going to play it. We get the Force out of their hand. Yep. Oh, I don't know. Our opponent might have this one. They might have this one. We do not have much of a lock set up at the moment. And now they can start making clues with the Tamiyo, which is going to let them even further break out of the lock. Well, mill with the Ghoul Caller's Bell. Fomori Vault. Well, that is slightly better than other lands, although I'm still not sure how we get through this endless stream of counter spells. If we find a bridge or something, gets in, hits us, makes a clue. Opponent seems to be worrying about the clock a little bit. 1, 2, 3. Well, we're going to Fomori Vault. Discard the Pithing Needle. I guess Assassin's Trophy. There's a bridge. I mean, we got to try it. Do they have another counter in hand? We don't know that they have another counter in hand, right? Ensnaring Bridge. Ah! And a Deceiver Exarch to tap down a land. All right. I mean, if our opponent goes for the combo, though, it doesn't work. I don't know if our opponent understands this, but they might just be adding a body. Yeah, they're just adding a body to the battlefield. Yeah, opponent's going to have just enough counters, I think, to keep the bridges off the battlefield. Oh, Meltdown is brutal. And Clue to draw a card. MDFC. Clue to draw a card. Going to flip the Tamiyo. And then the Tamiyo can get back the Meltdown. All right. Well, they didn't do that, though. All right, let's mill. Well, okay. We need the draw of the year. Come on, deck. Pyxis of Pandemonium. Yup. I mean, I guess we're bringing the Soul Guide Lantern. With what we saw there, our opponent has a lot of ways to interact with the graveyard. Do we need the other bridge? Maybe we need the other bridge. Maybe the bridge is just better than the Curse Totem. Like, Curse Totem shuts down the twin combo, but bridge also shuts down the twin combo. And then maybe we just got to go down the Ghoul Caller's Bell. Yeah, I think that's our best bet. Run it like that. We're on the play for game number 3. Let's get a good hand. The goodness of the hand is we have an Urza Saga, but we can't actually cast anything else. We have a Soul Guide Lantern. This hand's not busted, but the hand's, it's reasonable. The problem is, it does not beat a Meltdown. Well, we're going to keep Beseiju to the bottom. I wonder if there's a better solution to Meltdown. Well, let's play the Lantern. Wow, are we force pitching blue card right on turn 1 to stop the Lantern of Insight of all things? Wow. All right, force pitching Snapcaster. Opponent does not want to deal with the Lantern, which I guess makes sense. It is the namesake card. Opponent, Steam Vents untapped, passing. Ancient Stirrings. Well, Ancient Stirrings is pretty good. Let's Ancient Stirrings. Do some digging. Torpor Orb. And yeah, let's play the Pyxis. And pass the turn. Well, I like that the Pyxis exiles, although without knowing what we're exiling, it's still kind of medium. But we're going to activate it. Exile something. Assassin's Trophy. Play a Torpor Orb. See if our opponent has a counter. Not yet. Or they just have a Meltdown, so they don't care about us adding artifacts to the battlefield. I almost wonder if, like, Heroic Intervention could be worth it. I was digging around for, like, what's the best way to stop a Meltdown? And I don't know, maybe that's as good as it gets. Like, maybe we actually got to play, like, Heroic Intervention in the sideboard. We can beat it if we get stuff set up early, and, like, we have the Thoughtseize to get it out of their hand, and then we have our lock so they can't draw it. Like, we have almost every deck we've played against is playing Meltdown, so we've navigated through it a few times, but boy, it has also really blown us out a few times. Surgical Extraction. Pass the turn? Flame of Anor. Gonna blow up the Torpor Orb and draw a couple of cards. All right, so I think we're just gonna Surgical. Get rid of the Flame of Anor, because that card's brutal for us. And we can see our opponent's hand. Blood Moon. Deceiver Exarch. Wow, they have the full combo. So 4 counter spells, 2 Flare of Denials, 3 Force Negation, Slink into Stupor. They have 2 Splinter Twins and 1 Deceiver. Oh, 2 Deceiver Exarchs? Oh, 2 and 3. Wow, those are some weird numbers. Well, all right, Flame of Anor down. But I don't even know if that's going to be good enough. All right, well, we will see. That's a pretty good hand. We need to draw land, and we need to draw that land relatively soon. Opponent gets in, hits us. Exile, randomly. Untap, draw, land. Oh! Oh, we're probably exiling all of our lands. That is the downside. I mean, this game would have went much different if our opponent did not counter that. If our opponent did not counter that lantern. Countering that lantern was a game-changing play. Because it's lantern control. Oh, wow. Wait, they just top deck that? Oh, now they win, right? If they have a land. Opponent, they found a way. That was a pretty insane top deck, because we just saw our opponent's hand last turn, and we knew that they did not have a way to protect the Deceiver Exarch, but they pulled it off the top. Heading into the last round, we got to win this one to have a winning record. Wow, this has been a very interesting league. I keep going back and forth. I don't know if Lantern Control is good again or if it's horrible again. It really depends on the match. Some matches it's felt great. Other matches it's felt horrible. Oh, we got to keep this, right? No black mana, but we can dig for it. We got the Saga. We're double Pithing Needle. Yeah, we're going to try it. We're going to try it. We got the Ancient Stirrings. We got the Urza Saga. So we should be able to find a Lantern pretty soon. This is a match, right? Is Lantern a meme or dream? If we win this, we get the winning record. It's a dream, even though we'll have a lot to talk about in the wrap-up. If we lose, then it's definitely a meme based on our league. Well, that's Boseiju and Ancient Stirrings. Probably going to take the Bobble, actually. Probably going to take the Bobble for redraw purposes. Spire Bluff. Ooh, all right, so Splinter Twin take 2, perhaps? Well, it's a land. Not the land we really wanted, but it is a land. Let's play the Bobble. And we're just going to crack it, see if we can get a peek at what our opponent's up to. Surgical Extraction. Interesting. Well, we're going to play Urza Saga. Run out a Kodak Shredder. Guess mill the Surgical? And we'll pass the turn. I guess we're not going to run out the Pithing Needle yet, because I am still not sure what our opponent's trying to do over there. Oh, could it be a Phoenix deck? Well, we'll see. We draw even more Urza Sagas. Pluto Delta for our opponent cracks it. It could still be Twin, Watery Grave, and Psychic Frog. There's a lot of things that draw cards when they hit you these days, aren't there? Well, take up the Urza Saga. We draw a Spire of Industry. I think we have to just start making constructs. Pass the turn. So it looks like Grixis, Murktide / Oculus. We're going to need to find an Ensnaring Bridge at some point, because we don't really have removal for this frog, except for Ensnaring Bridge and Preordain. 1 to the top, 2 to the bottom. Probably looking for a land. Finds the land. Steam Vents, untap. Goes to combat. I mean, we're going to make the construct. I'm not sure what else we're doing with our lives, so. All right, opponent's just going to send it to the air and gets to draw a card. All right, opponent passes. So Urza Saga going to trigger. We draw another Urza Saga. Well, I guess the plan is make a construct. All right, there's the Lightning Bolt. Yeah, I mean, I think we just have to set up our game plan, get the Lantern, Arclight on top. So we'll play another Urza Saga. We'll play a Pithing Needle. Opponent going to start discarding some cards. Wow, opponent going to discard a lot of cards. Still going. Psychic Frog is named. Well, we'll see if these constructs can win the race. We want our opponent to draw the Arclight. Opponent Preordain's going to find a Tameo. Not sure if we want to draw Assassin's Trophy or not, honestly. Opponent going to Preordain for Consider. Yeah, this is tricky. All these cantrips let our opponent see multiple cards. Preordain, I hadn't really thought about Preordain, but Preordain also kind of makes Lantern worse, doesn't it? And Faithless Looting, and there's a Faithless Looting. How many Arclights do they have? If the answer is 2, we're probably dead. There's 1 on top. If it's only 1, okay, only 1. Watery Grave, untapped. Oh, come on now. Jeez. All right, opponent mills it and gets back all the Arclights. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I mean, we got to take it, right? We got to take it. Mill the Lightning Bolt. Opponent's going to draw Manamorphose. We drop to 9. There's a Faithless Looting on top too. This matchup, good lord. I think we mill. We gotta find bridge. Another Urza. So many Urza Sagas. So many Urza Sagas. Oh, there's a Graph Digger's Cage, but it's a bit late to this party. Play even more Urza Sagas. Make a Construct. Play a Pithing Needle. Scalding Dart, I guess. On Scalding Tarn. Go to combat, hit ya. The problem is we're dropping to 3. And they have Lightning Bolt in their deck, so there's a reasonable chance we die here. Untaps, looting on top, Bloodstained Mire on top of that. Manamorphose to draw the Bloodstained Mire. Okay, Scalding Tarn on top. I guess if they find another Phoenix, that would also almost certainly do it. Psychic Frog is quite a card. Bloodstained Mire. Cracks it down to 6. We can shuffle with the Lantern if we have to. Thoughtseize, that's not relevant. Psychic Frog is actually kind of relevant. Well, here they go. Seeing if they can find the Phoenix. Psychic Frog. Okay. Phoenix or a Bolt? That's what our opponent's looking for. And plays another. Okay, so opponent's just going to try to play defense. Is this going to work? Probably. So we have to find Ensnaring Bridge. Opponent gets in with both because we don't have removal. So it's not like we can just kill one of these. So we untap. So they just double chump and then we die. There's no Shadow Sphere in the deck. So it's not like we can get a Shadow Sphere off this Urza Saga. So I think it has to be Bridge, right? It's just got to be Bridge. Kodak Shredder. Ancient Stirrings. Okay, that's worth keeping. That gives us a lot of shots to find the bridge. So we draw the Ancient Stirring. Float a mana. Not going to make a construct because it's not relevant. So float a mana. Take up our Urza Sagas. I don't think there's anything this can get that really matters. So we're probably best off just taking like a Pixis as more control if we find the bridge. Yeah, let's take the Pixis. Spire of Industry on top. Oh, I guess it's up to the Ancient Stirrings to find a bridge. Oh, there's a bridge. There's a bridge. Forest. We play Ensnaring Bridge. Actually, we're over tapping. 1, 2, 3. Play Ensnaring Bridge. And pass the turn. So now we have to keep our opponent from drawing a bolt. Well, all right. So there's a land on top, but they got a Faithless Looting. Let's see what's on top of that. Manamorphose. If our opponent Faithless Lootings, I think we exile Manamorphose because it's a redraw anyway. Yeah, let's exile it. Another looting. Well, it is what it is. Gotta fade the bolt. Next turn, we can get another Mill Rock, which will give us more chances to fizzle. It's all these draw twos, though. Opponent's deck has just so many draw twos. And passes. Okay, that's huge. That is huge. There's a Kodak Shredder on top that we actually would like to draw. We will float a mana with Urza Saga. No more constructs. Constructs are over with. Another Pixis. Play a Kodak Shredder. Play an Urza Saga. And is it worth thought seizing? Probably not, because it turns on Gut Shot. Well, now we get to play the fun game of see if we can keep our opponent from drawing a Lightning Bolt. So opponent's going to draw Consider. Has another Consider on the top of their deck, apparently. Opponent's only got 24 cards, so they don't have a ton. Oh, if we had one more life, I'd be feeling real good. Opponent gonna flashback the looting. Okay. Lightning Bolt on top, but we can handle that. It was not the card they drew, at least. Thank goodness. Let's fight a little battle here. So, Pixis a Pandemonium. Exile. Oh, opponent just lets it go. Exile? All right, now we have to wait. So, untap. That's another bolt that we need to get rid of. So, Pixis, exile. An opponent scoops it up. Whew. Okay, we managed to control enough. That was a scary fast Psychic Frog. Coming down on turn 2, growing and drawing cards. Opponent hit the double Arclight Phoenix, but we found the bridge at the last minute and it shut him down. Somehow, Arclight Phoenixes cannot fly over the Ensnaring Bridge, which I'm actually thankful for at the moment, but a little weird, but sure, we'll take it. Is it Phoenix? Soul Guide Lantern in. Maybe Damping Sphere? Maybe Fatal Push? Damping Sphere does keep them from chaining together spells, which is somewhat relevant. Fatal Push, at least it's a way we can kill a Psychic Frog, which is a concern. The Surgicals are good. The discard seems good. So maybe go down like a Bobble and Assassin's Trophy can kill a frog too. How many frog answers do we need? Oh, now they're probably gonna have meltdowns too. Let's go down one Ghoul Color Spell. One Ghoul Color Spell, 2 Bobbles. Run it like that. Little removal in the Damping Sphere. All right, let's get this treasure chest. Let's feed the kids. Can we feed the kids? Little worried about a fast frog, but opponent, Polluter Delta. I don't know. A fast something. Watery Grave. Untapped. And Preordain. Okay. Sure. Another cheap artifact would be good, but we sided out a lot of the bobbles. All right, deck. What do we get? Urza Saga. Well, we're actually just going to lead on the Urza Saga. We're not going to get max value out of it, but we just want it to come off whatever lore counters as quickly as possible. Frog right here is annoying because we can't even kill it this turn. They also probably have Meltdown in their deck, which we're going to have to be aware of. All right, opponent Thundering Falls. Okay, better than a frog. Fatal, ooh, okay. Not a 0-mana artifact, but I do like Fatal Push. Let's play this Blooming Marsh past the turn. That is a way that we can actually just kill a frog, which is kind of insane. Our deck is not good at just killing things. Opponent's going to consider. And then in theory, next turn, if nothing goes horribly wrong, we might be able to shut down the Phoenixes with Graveyard Hate. Spire Bluff for our opponent. Psychic Frog. Fatal Push the Frog. Ooh, Pithing Needle. Let's float a mana. Sack the Saga. Okay, opponent's going to Stifle the Trigger. Let's play the Urza Saga. Pithing Needle. Oh, we have an extra mana floating. Oh, this is easier than I thought. So we can play the Pithing Needle. Psychic Frog. Yeah, I think we play the bridge. Play the bridge, pass the turn. And let's see what happens. Oh, that Consign to Memory was very good for our opponent. Is it good enough to swing the game? So if they get back a bunch of Phoenixes, they can attack at least. But if they have something like Meltdown in their deck, they're probably going to be pretty good at finding it. And Scalding Tarn. And cracks it. Faithless Looted. Wouldn't mind finding like a Thoughtseize just to do a little. There's an Arclight. Wouldn't mind a Thoughtseize to do a little hand check for Meltdowns. All right, land on top. So we get to draw 2. Well, card number 1, Lantern. Okay. And Academy Ruins. And Saga. Play the Academy Ruins. Play Lantern of Insight. Pass the turn. All right, no Meltdowns. No Meltdowns. Opponent, Bloodstained Mire. Watery Grave, and Preordain. Yeah, all these like scry 2 draw a card effects are so insane. So good at getting through our Lantern lock. And then Faithless Looting to find a Tamiyo. Well, I mean, we can't really get rid of it, so sure, I guess. Awkwardly, Tamiyo can attack even through our bridge, so we might have to Assassin's Trophy that. There's the Tamiyo. 1, 2, we might as well make a Construct. And then, well, we'll untap. Urza's Saga's gonna trigger. We draw a land that we don't really want. Well, let's float the mana. Kodak Shredder. Assassin's Trophy the Tamiyo. I mean, if our opponent doesn't have Meltdown, we're doing really well. If they do have Meltdown, I'm not sure what's happening. Well, let's play Mycosynth Gardens. Pass the turn. Do we mill the Consider? All right, opponent, Consider. Gonna draw it. Top card, Arclight. That's fine. Arclights are not a problem at the moment. Well, there's a Thought Scour. Mills and... Oh! Meltdown. Well, mill this Mox Opal. Shuffle with Lantern of Insight. Get absolutely blown out. That has happened a lot of times. We even like had a reasonable setup for controlling it, but... Well, okay. Okay, how many Meltdowns are you playing? How many you playing, opponent? Bridge number 2! Not dead yet? Not dead yet. Not dead. I mean, we got nothing else going on, but we're not dead yet because we got another bridge. Opponent Considers. They could definitely be playing more than one. They're just so good at digging through their deck. We've run into this a bunch of times that like we can't stop the second card down. We can see what's on the top of your deck. It's almost like the you can't Thoughtseize the top of your opponent's deck problem. We can see the top card and make a decision as if we need to mill it or not, but we can't really control that second card down. So if you just go Faithless Looting, top card's fine, bottom card's Meltdown, we just get absolutely hammered. Ooh, Surgical Extract. Okay, we're gonna surgically extract this Meltdown. Wow, there was one in their hand too. Oh my god. So Meltdown out of the graveyard. Wow, Meltdown out of the hand. Do they have any other outs? I'm not seeing them. That should be game. That should be game. Wow. That was the, okay. Arclights Considers, Consign to Memories, Lootigs. Nothing gets rid of a bridge. Okay. And they don't have enough bolts. Okay. Wow. Wow, Magic God, smile upon your Lantern Control children. And I am pretty sure that it is impossible for our opponent's deck to win from this position. Relatively confident. So we're going to make a blue mana and we are going to start trying to reassemble our pieces here. So an opponent knows the Lantern's coming back, knows it's being reassembled, and scoops it up. And what a wild league. I gotta say, I love where Modern is right now. It is so sweet. I can't believe we won that game. That Surgical was so clutch. We rode out. Wow. I mean, I will say, I am the first to admit, we got a little bit lucky. Opponent found the Meltdown, blew up our bridge. We managed to find another bridge the next turn, super lucky. And then we managed to find a Surgical, which got rid of a Meltdown that our opponent had in their hand for the next turn, or we would have been super dead. Did we play against Meltdown in every single round? I'm pretty sure we played against Meltdown literally every single, we played one repeat matchup, but all different decks, but just everyone is playing Meltdown at the moment, which I guess makes sense because of Mox Opal, but well, we get one treasure chest. But sometimes that's all it takes. Let's crack open this treasure chest, do a little wrap up about Lantern in 20. Oh man, I love this deck. About Lantern in 2024. All right, 101. Let's get a Mox Opal, please. How about a Cosium Confluence, which I think might be a good commander card. I'm coming around on this in Commander. Mystic Gate, good 20 years ago, and Permeating Mass. One of those janky against the odds creatures. Well, okay, so what do we learn about Lantern Control in 2024? So we finished with a 3-2, which I guess overall I'm kind of happy with. Like, it's a winning record. Little disappointing that we started off 2-0 and then ended up 1-2 in our last 3 rounds. Although, kind of insane we won that last one. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we beat that Phoenix deck. I mean, I feel like Phoenix should be an okay matchup because we have like Graveyard Hate and Surgicals and Ensnaring Bridges, but we just drew the right cards at the right time. So I think we really got to see the good and the bad of Lantern in 2024. So the good is Mox Opal really makes things so much easier for the deck. Like, it is a really huge buff, just letting us empty our hand super quickly, get up to our bridges faster. So it is a really, really big deal for the deck. So Opal, huge improvement. Also, Urza Saga, a card that wasn't really a thing back when Lantern was, at its prime. And Urza Saga is insane in this deck. This has to be one of the better decks to play Urza Saga. And the funny thing is, in a lot of decks, Urza Saga is great because of the Constructs. In our deck, the Constructs, they're a nice backup plan. We do occasionally, like, we saw a game where things weren't going well, we had nothing going on, and we're like, make a couple Constructs and win. A lot of times, they're pretty bad because we just lock ourselves within Ensnaring Bridge. But this time, Urza Saga, actually insane, mostly because of the tutoring, right? It can get our Lantern, it can get our Codex Shredders, it can get our Pithing Needles, which is oddly important. So the good news is the deck is better than it was a week ago. Urza Saga makes it more powerful, and it still can do its thing. Like, it's just such a unique force in Magic that if you can get the lock set up, it's still relatively effective. But there is bad news, and we saw the bad news throughout our matchups too. Bad news number 1 is apparently just everyone plays Meltdown now. Like, I said this before, but I'm pretty sure every single deck we played against was playing Meltdown on their sideboard, specifically to deal with Mox Opal decks, and good lord, is that card punishing for us. Like, we have so many cheap artifacts, and they're very important to our game plan, that Meltdown just gets us. I'm almost curious if there's, like, maybe the Welding Jars got to come in the main in some number. There is some, like, cute tricks with Mycosynth Gardens. One of the things I was thinking of during the league is maybe we, like, play more Welding Jars and play more Mycosynth Gardens, and then when we get Meltdown, hopefully, like, we just tap the Gardens to turn it into a copy of the Welding Jars and, like, sack them and sack some other stuff to keep our important pieces. So maybe there's a way to make it more resilient. Maybe it's as silly as, like, Heroic Intervention or something in the sideboard to just, like, save all of our stuff from the Meltdown. But Meltdown was problem number 1. Problem number 2 wasn't as obvious at first glance, which was Faithless Looting, honestly, and other similar cards. We saw in some of our losses, we'd kind of get the lock set up to control the top of our opponent's deck, but cards like Preordain and Faithless Looting let our opponent get beyond that first card. And once they get to that second card, we don't have any control over the deck. It's really you can't Thought Seize the top of your opponent's deck problem, but, like, you can't Lantern the second card down in your opponent's deck. It's like the Lantern version of that, where essentially, like, they cast a Faithless Looting. We're like, okay, your top card's not a problem for us, but if the second card down is a problem, we just have no way of knowing and no way to interact with that. So Faithless Lootings, Preordains, those also make the deck a little bit worse. Tameo also, we saw popping off with the clues, all those extra draws. Just the more draws our opponent has, the harder it is for us to control every card our opponent draws. And the beauty and also fragility of Lantern Control is it only takes one card to slip through and the whole thing falls apart. It's not like, every once in a while, if one slips through, it's okay. We can take a little bit of damage. Like, we'll be all right. No, it's like if one Meltdown slips through, it just ruins everything. So that was another challenge. Of course, also, like, Beseiju is an issue. We saw the loss to a Beseiju Renin 6-lock, which I guess kind of fairly, they locked our prison deck out of the game. So, okay, fair. If we're going to play prison and you prison us, that is perfectly fine. So I don't know what to think about Lantern in 2024. On one hand, the deck functioned well. It's still hilarious. It still does its thing. On the other hand, I feel like the card pool has gotten worse for Lantern. So I would say overall, I don't think that Mox Opal makes Lantern tier 1 again or something like that. I think the problem with Lantern, yes, losing Mox Opal definitely hurts, and the deck is better now that it has Mox Opal, but I don't think that was the real problem for Lantern. I think the real problem for Lantern is the Preordains and the Faithless Lootings and the Besejus, and now the prevalence of Meltdowns, just the proliferation of answers. Because if you think how the deck works, we're trying to play all these Yankee artifacts, and not only are we trying to play them, we need them to sit on the battlefield for like 10 turns or 15 turns, some absurd number of turns to win the game. So we need to keep them out for a long, long time, and those cards are just really good at breaking through the lock. So I think Lantern, it's probably still like a tier 2 deck, tier 3 deck, but it does get better with Mox Opal. I still love it. It will always have a special place in my heart because I just love locking people out of the game. I will warn you, if you want to pick it up, really learn what's in your opponent's deck. So that's the most important thing, is to know what's in your opponent's deck, because you need to know that to know what is relevant to Mill, what is relevant to Pithing Needle. So if you don't know Modern relatively well, you're really going to struggle, because your knowledge of your opponent's deck is the most important thing. Also worth mentioning, one of our losses was a pun. Definitely Grafdigger's Cage against Indomitable Creativity. Probably won't live that one down for a while, although I was thinking back on that match, and I'm pretty sure with how that game was going, even if we had tutored correctly and not punted by getting Grafdigger's Cage, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have mattered because we were just so far behind that Archon at that point anyway that I don't think we were going to get back into it. So it definitely, no doubt, it was a silly punt and kind of a stupid brain fart, but I don't think it cost us the match. But anyway, that is Lantern Control in 2024. How good is it actually? I think the answer is kind of medium, but it's still super unique and cool. That's been our deck for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you all enjoy it, and I will talk to you soon.